1. I moved into the old farmhouse to get away from the bustle of the city. Every night, I heard whispering from the walls, voices too faint to understand. One evening, I decided to confront the source. As I pressed my ear to the wall, the whispers grew louder, more insistent, until I could make out the words, "Set us free." Grabbing a hammer, I began to tear at the wall, desperate to uncover the truth. After hours of smashing and prying, I unearthed a hidden chamber filled with bones. The whispers stopped abruptly. As I stood there, horrified, I felt a cold hand grasp my shoulder. Turning slowly, I saw a figure made entirely of shadows. "Thank you," it rasped, "for taking my place." 2. Walking home late one night, I took a shortcut through the park. The air was thick with fog, muffling the sound of my footsteps. Suddenly, I saw a figure ahead, standing motionless under a lamppost. As I approached, I realized it was a man wearing a wide-brimmed hat, his face obscured by the brim. He didn't move as I passed by, but I felt his eyes on me. Quickening my pace, I glanced over my shoulder and saw him still standing there, his head slowly turning to follow me. I broke into a run, heart pounding. Finally reaching home, I slammed the door shut and locked it. Relieved, I turned to find the man standing in my hallway, hat in hand. "You dropped this," he said, his voice a sinister whisper. 3. I always prided myself on being a rational person, dismissing ghost stories as mere fantasies. That changed when I bought a vintage mirror from an antique shop. Every time I looked into it, I saw fleeting shadows behind me. One night, determined to prove it was just my imagination, I set up a camera to record the room while I slept. The next morning, I watched the footage, feeling foolish. But as the recording played, I saw a figure emerge from the mirror, standing over my bed, watching me sleep. I turned off the camera, breathing a sigh of relief. Then, I felt a cold breath on my neck. The mirror had been in front of me the whole time. 4. I moved to a remote cabin in the woods, seeking solitude and inspiration for my writing. One night, as I sat by the fireplace, I heard a strange knocking at the door. Opening it, I found a young girl, shivering and lost. She said she had been separated from her family during a hike. I let her in, offering her warmth and food. The next morning, I drove her to the nearest town. When we arrived, the locals stared in shock. An old woman approached, tears in her eyes. "That girl went missing 50 years ago," she whispered. I turned to the girl, but she was gone, leaving only a cold, empty seat. 5. Exploring an abandoned asylum seemed like a great adventure for my friends and me. As we wandered through the decaying halls, we found an old journal detailing experiments on patients. One entry caught our attention. A patient who believed he could transfer his consciousness to others. Laughing it off, we continued our exploration. Suddenly, one of my friends began acting strangely, claiming to be the patient from the journal. We thought it was a joke until he started reciting events from the journal in eerie detail. As we tried to leave, he blocked our path, eyes wild. "You shouldn't have come here," he said in a voice that wasn't his own. 6. Late one night, I received a frantic call from my sister. She said someone was in her house and begged me to come over. Grabbing my keys, I rushed to her place, heart racing. When I arrived, the house was dark and silent. I found her in the living room, eyes wide with terror. She pointed to the corner, where a shadowy figure stood, unmoving. I turned on the lights, but there was nothing there. My sister swore she wasn't hallucinating. Trying to calm her, I promised to stay the night. As we settled in, I received a text from her number, Thank you for believing me. Now it's your turn. 7. I took a job as a night guard at an old museum. The exhibits, mostly artifacts from ancient civilizations, were fascinating during the day but eerie at night. One exhibit, a mummy, particularly unsettled me. Every night, I felt its gaze follow me as I made my rounds. One night, I heard faint chanting coming from the mummy's exhibit. I approached cautiously, the air growing colder with each step. The chanting stopped abruptly as I reached the display. The mummy's eyes, once closed, were now wide open. As I stumbled back, I felt a bandaged hand grip my ankle. "Join me," a voice whispered from the shadows. Driving down a desolate road late at night, I saw a hitchhiker and decided to offer a ride. The man climbed in, thanking me profusely. We made small talk, but something about him felt off. He knew too much about me, mentioning things I hadn't shared. Growing uneasy, I asked where he was headed. He turned to me, smiling eerily. "I've already arrived," he said, disappearing into thin air. I slammed on the brakes, heart pounding. Looking around, I realized I was in front of my own house. The hitchhiker's voice echoed in my mind. "Home, sweet home." 9. I loved taking photos of abandoned places. One day, I explored an old, decrepit house on the outskirts of town. As I snapped pictures, I noticed a portrait on the wall, a family frozen in time. Moving closer, I saw something chilling. The faces in the portrait were twisted in terror. Ignoring the growing unease, I took a photo of the portrait. Reviewing the shot, I gasped. The family members were now looking directly at me, their expressions pleading. As I lowered the camera, I felt a cold breeze and heard a whisper, "Help us." The portrait was empty. 10. During a hiking trip, I found a beautiful, secluded lake. Setting up camp, I decided to take a swim. The water was calm and refreshing, but as I swam further, I felt something brush against my leg. Looking down, I saw a hand reaching up from the depths. Panicking, I swam back to shore, but the hand grabbed my ankle, pulling me under. Struggling, I broke free and surfaced, gasping for air. Looking back at the lake, there was no sign of the hand. As I stumbled to my tent, I noticed something horrifying. Wet footprints leading away from the water. Thank you for watching. For more short stories under 10 minutes, click on the video on your screen, or if you want longer stories based on real-life events or fictionals, click on the playlist appearing on your screen now. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel for more thrilling tales. See you in the next video.